What if I told you there was a narrative thread woven so deeply within the tapestry of the Bible that even seasoned scholars and theologians often hesitate to unravel it? A story not just of celestial beings and divine pronouncements, but of the intimate, complex relationships between angels and human women. These were not forced unions born of conquest, but relationships kindled by desire, perhaps love, or something infinitely more enigmatic. They became consorts of heavenly watchers, and in their acceptance, unknowingly set in motion a chain of events that would unleash a cataclysmic response from the very heart of heaven. But here lies the forgotten chapter, the unspoken truth. What became of these women when the foundations of their world crumbled? Their angelic husbands, the rebellious watchers, were condemned to eternal darkness. Their offspring, the formidable Nephilim, were eradicated in a sweeping act of divine judgment. Yet the women remained stranded between worlds, burdened by grief and scorned by both heaven and earth. And what transpired next, orchestrated by the Archangel Michael himself, will forever challenge your understanding of justice, mercy, and the very nature of divine warfare. For this is not merely a tale of monstrous giants and fallen angels. It is a human story, a poignant exploration of women who were captivated by celestial allure, entangled in a cosmic conflict, and forced to bear a burden of unimaginable consequence. Strikingly, it resonates with our contemporary world. We inhabit an era where individuals are drawn to ephemeral lights, seduced by illusions, cloaked in spiritual language, and unknowingly lured into situations they cannot comprehend until escape becomes impossible. Therefore, consider this. Is it possible that remnants of what those women unleashed still reverberate through our existence? Could unseen ripples extend through bloodline cities and even predetermined destinies? Such depths beckon exploration. Before embarking on this journey, if you are captivated by profound narratives, hidden truths, ancient enigmas, and supernatural revelations originating from the scriptures themselves, I invite you to embark on this exploration with me. Envision a tranquil village shrouded in the pre-dawn hush. A woman is seated by a river's edge, her hands trembling, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Her eyes reflect a memory, not a prayer. She remembers the night he arrived, not a mortal man, not a figment of her imagination, but a being composed of light and shadow, a watcher descending from the celestial realm. She was merely a woman of the earth, fragile, inquisitive, perhaps even impetuous. Yet he was divine. His eyes held the brilliance of distant stars. His voice resonated like a symphony of rushing waters and hidden thunder. And when he uttered her name, it echoed within her soul as though she had been created solely to hear it. Pause for reflection. Can you truly falter? Would you have turned away had a being of radiant glory descended from heaven, regarding you, not with anger, but with profound wonder? Would you have declined an offer of wisdom, power, perhaps even love? For this is the crucial detail we tend to overlook. These women did not simply succumb to sin, they fell in love, or at least believed they did. And here is the pivotal twist. Some of the watchers reciprocated those feelings. These were not uniformly cold, calculated acts of seduction. Some of the fallen angels were genuinely captivated. They did not merely engage in clandestine encounters. They formed bonds of marriage, established homes, and nurtured children. They sought to create something sacred from what was forbidden, but heaven never sanctioned their unions. It is easy to portray these women as villains, to label them as seductresses or pawns of malevolence. However, the truth may be more tragic than depraved. They were merely human, unaware that their choices were inscribing a curse into the very fabric of existence. Their offspring, the Nephilim, were giants in stature, but their influence extended far beyond mere physical dominance. They were ravenous, violent, and corrupted. Their existence constituted a spiritual contagion that was spreading across the world. And when God observed this, his judgment extended beyond the men. He did not merely chain the angels, he dispatched Michael. And this is where the narrative takes a chilling turn. Michael was not initially sent to annihilate. His mission was to deliver a message, a decree from heaven, stipulating that everything born of these unions, every child, every custom, every drop of unholy blood must be eradicated. Imagine that moment. Michael, resplendent in celestial armor, standing before a woman still cradling her Nephilim son. She pleads, she cries, perhaps she even prostrates herself in supplication. But Michael remains resolute, for he is not simply an angel, he is an instrument. I realize this sounds severe. I recall my initial reading of these ancient texts and the question that arose within me: why would God permit the women to endure such suffering? But then I realized that they were not being punished in the conventional sense. They were being corrected. The women were not exterminated like the giants. They were segregated, marked, and placed under observation. Many believe that Michael remained long after the Watchers were imprisoned because someone was required to cleanse what the deluge could not wash away. Perhaps Michael's mission extended beyond judgment. It may have encompassed the healing of what had been defiled. Consider this. Had you loved something that heaven condemned, would you have relinquished it? Or would you have resisted, even if it meant confronting an angel wielding a flaming sword? History contains moments when the cosmos itself seems to groan. This was one such moment. Imagine the silence that preceded the storm, the unsettling stillness that permeated the land, the wind suspended mid-breath, the disappearance of birds, the restless pacing of animals, and the women, the wives of the Watchers, looking upward. They must have sensed an impending event, because when heaven prepares to act, creation itself feels the tremors. For years, perhaps generations, these women had existed in an uneasy equilibrium, concealed in valleys, shielded by their angelic spouses, raising children who grew into behemoths too immense for the land. Initially, they were praised, feared, even revered. Their sons established kingdoms, devised weapons, and sculpted mountains into thrones. The women themselves were regarded as goddesses, progenitors of a new race, bearers of something divine. Yet heaven remained vigilant, biding its time. And when judgment descended, it was not gentle. The flood was not merely water, it was a tempest of fury, a supernatural purification, an act of divine sorrow. Picture one of the wives whom we will call Adira, standing at the edge of a precipice, clutching her son as the ground beneath her began to convulse. Her husband, the angel who once shone like starlight, may have already been seized, bound in chains, and cast into the abyss by Michael and his legions. She may have harbored a lingering hope for his return, but what she witnessed was a wave towering over the trees, engulfing not only her, but everything she cherished. This was not solely about retribution, it was about sanctification. And Michael was already present, observing, not out of cruelty or apathy, but because his task remained unfinished. Most believe that Michael's sole purpose was to combat demons, to cast Lucifer from grace, and to guard the gates of paradise. However, in this narrative, Michael embodies something more formidable than a warrior. He arrives as a witness to mercy withheld. As the waters swallowed cities and the giants roared their final breaths, the wives persisted. Unlike their children, they were not extinguished. To me, this represents one of the most haunting aspects of the story. They endured. They witnessed the drowning of their offspring. They watched their angelic lovers vanish into the abyss, knowing that they had unlocked the gateway to this catastrophe. And Michael, he did not raise a blade against them, not yet. Instead, he observed their grief. And here is the question that persists. Even as I articulate this narrative, was such suffering sufficient punishment? Can you envision the weight of such guilt? Have you ever lived with a choice you could not undo? A decision that impacted not only you, but also contaminated everything that followed. This is what these women carried. They were not deceased, yet they were not truly living. They were remnants carriers of a corrupted memory that heaven refused to forget. Therefore, Michael remained not to obliterate them, but to address what they had become, because what had survived the flood still possessed a spark of the forbidden. In the next chapter, we will accompany Michael as he traverses the wreckage and prepares to execute the unthinkable. The floodwaters eventually receded. The land dried. The world appeared to have been reset, but heaven knew better, because evil does not always perish in water. Sometimes it lies dormant within the womb. It lingers in the blood. It echoes in the laments of the forgotten. This is where Michael enters not with a sword, but with a scroll, a decree, a divine assignment. But this one was not proclaimed with thunder or shouted from the heavens. It was whispered in fire, sealed by the will of the Most High. Heaven had destroyed the offspring and bound the watchers. But the wives still walked the earth, and an ember still glowed within them. Some posit that the seed of the fallen angels altered their DNA, that even though their children had perished, the bloodline remained spiritually charged, haunted by a supernatural residue, a form of spiritual radiation. Now imagine yourself as Michael, the commander of heaven's armies, the one who faced Lucifer in direct combat, now treading barefoot through scorched villages and broken homes, tracing the scent of something that should no longer exist. He was not dispatched to kill these women, but to confront what lingered within them. This is where the story becomes more difficult to convey, because we crave stark contrasts, heroes and villains, sinners and saints. But this existed in a gray area, a sacred tension. Some of the wives, like Adira, the one we envisioned earlier, were already broken, humbled. Their tears flowed incessantly, their prayers a silent lament. God, I did not know. I did not understand. Michael listened not from weakness, but from justice. He discerned the distinction between rebellion and repentance. Therefore, for those women, those who repented, mourned, and turned their backs on the past, Michael performed an act rarely discussed. He marked them not for death, but for observation. He placed upon them a spiritual seal, a cosmic scar recognizable to both heaven and hell. Heaven would not harm them, but neither would hell be permitted to claim them. They became a spiritual no man's land, a walking testament, a living reminder of the consequences of misused glory. However, not all of them resembled Adira. Some of the women had tasted power and desired more. Even without their angelic husbands, they began whispering the ancient incantations, teaching others the forbidden knowledge, imparted to them sorcery, enchantment, the manipulation of natural forces. Some claim that these women became the progenitors of ancient occult systems, keepers of secret arts that persist in the shadows. And Michael hunted them not with hatred, but with holy urgency, because they were no longer merely rebellious women. They were vessels of contamination, and if left unchecked, the infection would resurface. Thus, Michael's secret assignment was to redeem the repentant silence, the defiant, and cleanse the bloodlines where evil still lurked. He walked with fire, spoke in winds, and moved unseen, yet left entire villages in spiritual silence. Consider, can judgment be both holy and heartbreaking? This is the tension Michael faced, and perhaps the tension many of us face. As well, the choices of the past, the spirits we have invited, the brokenness we have inherited. Can they be cleansed? Can they be healed? Or must they be destroyed? Not everything leaves a physical scar. Some things mark the soul, and this is what Michael saw. As he moved from the village to village, from cave to city ruins, he realized something terrifying. The flood had ended, but its effects were still multiplying in secret. It resided in the women, not merely in their memories, but in their blood. Imagine this scenario. A young girl, barely 16. She has never known her angelic father, who was cast into the abyss before her birth. But she experiences vivid burning dreams of flight of fire, of speaking languages she has never learned. She can manipulate metal without touching it and foresee events before they occur. She hears voices that call her daughter of the ancient. Unbeknownst to her, she carries something her mother did not intend to pass down. This was the mark. It was not solely physical, but spiritual, a remnant of the illicit union between heaven and earth, forbidden yet alive in the veins of their daughters and granddaughters. Michael recognized it. To him, this was not merely a bloodline, but a crack in the barrier between worlds. Because if these women could transmit the essence of angelic rebellion, who could guarantee it would not resurface? Who could guarantee that the next generation would not attempt to complete what the Watchers had failed to achieve? This is where the narrative darkens as the world, following the flood, attempted to rebuild and restore peace. However, spiritual contamination was spreading beneath the surface. Some of these women considered it a blessing, believing their children to be special and chosen, viewing what they carried as sacred. They did not perceive it as a curse, but Michael knew better. He knew that heaven had never sanctioned this lineage, that what they carried was not divine, but defiance, a fusion of glory and rebellion, beauty intertwined with poison. Therefore, he began to mark their descendants, not to kill them, but to ensure that when the time came, those who stood with God could discern who carried the ancient fire and who did not. Ancient Jewish texts suggest that this spiritual residue may have persisted into the era of Abraham, Moses, and beyond. Could this explain the stringent rules governing Israel's bloodline? Could it explain why entire nations were sometimes ordered to be eradicated not solely for war crimes, but for their spiritual DNA? Is it possible that the mark persisted? And if it did, could it still exist today? This is the question that sends a shiver down my spine. Because when I survey the world today, I still observe individuals drawn to inexplicable phenomena, children born with extraordinary gifts, bloodlines that seem to attract chaos, tragedy, or strange power, and occult practices masquerading as culture or energy healing. I begin to wonder, are we still carrying echoes of what those women birthed? Even more frighteningly, is Michael still watching? You may believe that this story concluded millennia ago, The angels imprison the giants, drown the wives, either marked or forgotten. But if you have journeyed this far, you sense it, don't you? That tug in your spirit, that uncanny feeling that this narrative is still alive? You are correct, for the Bible does not merely recount historical events. It unveils patterns, spiritual blueprints that continue to resonate until fully resolved. Therefore, I ask you earnestly, what if the war Michael fought then continues now, not through floods or chains, but in bloodlines, spiritual inheritance, and within you? Consider the struggles in your life that defy explanation. Generational cycles, addictions passed down like heirlooms, dreams too vivid to be your own, and a pull towards things you cannot comprehend. Is it simply trauma? Or is there something more ancient at play? This narrative does not conclude in Genesis or Enoch, nor does it end with Michael's last recorded mission. It ends with us, with whether we perpetuate the cycle or finally break free, because I firmly believe that the God who spared the wives of the fallen still extends grace today. The angel who marked bloodlines remains in motion, and the mercy that once wept over women caught in divine calamity is still accessible. The question is, how will you respond? Will you disregard all of this? Therefore, as we conclude, I leave you with one final question. If Michael appeared at your doorstep tonight, would you be prepared for his purpose? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this narrative has prompted you to contemplate the unseen spiritual battles, please show support. Until our next encounter, remain vigilant, stay prepared, and remain unwavering. What if I told you that this story did not conclude with the great flood, nor with the chains that bound the watchers deep beneath the earth? What if the narrative that began thousands of years ago still pulses beneath our modern world, echoing not in ancient ruins, but in bloodlines, dreams, and unseen spiritual battles that shape the destinies of families and nations? It is tempting to believe that once the giants drowned and the angels fell, the story ended. It is far more comfortable to assume that history resolved itself neatly, that judgment wiped the slate clean. But something in you already knows that is not true, because the Bible does not simply record events, it reveals patterns, spiritual structures, cycles that repeat until they are confronted and broken. And patterns never die on their own. Imagine Michael standing on a ridge overlooking a valley smothered in silence after the floodwaters retreated. The air is thick with smoke from shattered altars and broken homes. The mountains tremble with the aftershocks of divine judgment. Below him, silhouetted against the ruin, women move slowly through the wreckage, barefoot in the mud, clutching remnants of a life that had dissolved into ash. They are not demons. They are not villains. They are mothers, widows, lovers, caught in a cosmic tragedy they never understood. Some collapse to their knees the moment they sense a presence descending. Their tears fall with the weight of confession. They tear apart the relics and symbols left behind by the angelic husbands who once dazzled them with celestial beauty. They whisper prayers torn from shattered hearts. God, I did not know. I did not understand. To them, Michael does not come with a sword raised. He comes with fire in his eyes and mercy in his hands. He marks them not for destruction, but for protection. A spiritual seal only heaven and hell can perceive. They become walking boundaries, living reminders that grace and judgment can coexist, that repentance still alters destiny. But not all respond that way. Some cling to the forbidden knowledge passed down in whispers, incantations, sigils, Enchantment star maps, traced in dirt. They call it power. They call it enlightenment. They call it heritage. They do not see the chains wrapped in gold. And Michael does not negotiate. He restrains because what they carry is no longer curiosity, it is infection, the residue of rebellion disguised as divine illumination. He walks from village to village, from caves to broken cities, not hunting bodies, but identifying gateways, because what survived the flood was not flesh, but a spiritual fracture. The contamination lived on, not in the giants who drowned, but in the women who survived in their dreams, in their daughters, in the blood that pulsed beneath their skin like a dormant fire waiting for oxygen. Perhaps that is why some children, even generations later, awakened with unnatural intuition, inexplicable abilities, visions they never asked for, why entire bloodlines seemed marked by both brilliance and devastation. Perhaps that is why some nations rose and fell violently, why certain families carried battles no therapy could explain. Because the war Michael fought was never just about giants, it was about inheritance. And if that war still exists, if those patterns still breathe, then the real question is no longer about ancient women or ancient angels. It is about us. If Michael knocked at your door tonight, scroll in hand, flames reflected in his eyes, would what flows in your blood draw him to protect you or to confront you? So what we've really explored today isn't just a forgotten piece of biblical history, but a timeless reflection on choices, consequences, and the enduring power of grace. This story reminds us that even when entangled in circumstances beyond our comprehension, the opportunity for redemption and healing remains. It's about recognizing the patterns in our own lives, the echoes of the past that might be influencing our present, and choosing to break free from cycles that no longer serve us. I'm genuinely curious to hear your perspective on all of this. Does this narrative resonate with you in any way? Do you see these themes playing out in the world around us? Or perhaps even within your own journey? Please share your thoughts, questions, or insights in the comments below. Let's continue this conversation and explore these profound ideas together. And if you found this exploration thought-provoking and want to delve deeper into similar narratives and uncover more hidden truths within Scripture, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos. We'll continue to journey through ancient texts, ask challenging questions, and seek a deeper understanding of the spiritual forces that shape our world. Thanks for watching.